Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to speak at this conference. But I'm very sorry that I can't join you in person because I have very happy memories of attending this conference, I think now 2 years ago, and meeting everybody there. And so I'm sorry I can't be with you today. So I am here in Oxford, in England, and with the benefit of technology, I'm very happy to speak to you and very honoured to be asked to speak. So I've been asked to speak about international trends in editorial activities. And this is potentially a huge topic and one which I would need far longer than 30 minutes to talk about. But I decided what I needed to do was to find out what are the key topics that people are discussing at the moment. So this was a very simple way of dealing with this. I went through articles that I have published in my journal, Learned Publishing. I went through some listservs, editorial discussion groups to see what people are talking about. I had a quick check on Google Scholar. I looked at some other journals. So this is a tiny little bit of research to look at all of the topics that people are talking about and have been talking about for the last 12 months. And this was only some of the issues. Some are so small, they didn't come up in this word map. But the three items that really rose above the others were preprints, diversity, and speed. Also in this, there are problems over retractions and ethics issues, but Tracy Chen, I thought, gave a very good talk about this, in particular in relationship with Scopus and with indexing. So I won't talk about that, but I would like to talk about what is happening in the three areas: speed, diversity, and preprints, and why these are important issues for editors to consider. The first one is the issue of speed. How quickly do we process articles? How quickly do we publish? How quickly do we provide an answer to an author who has spent maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 10 years researching a project? How quickly can we respond to them? Well, the last 12 months has seen a rapid increase in the number of submissions to journals. People are reporting a very large increase, not only in the medical sciences, but also in other disciplines. My own journal, Learned Publishing, we had a 50% increase in the number of submissions. I spoke to an editor yesterday who had over 100% increase in submissions. So they received twice as many submissions in the last 12 months than in previous years. And of course, this is a big burden for editors, particularly when, if you're working in the medical sciences, the importance of validating and publishing quickly is so important in the current pandemic. And there has been research about this, which has found that medical journals have increased their speed of turnaround from submission to decision by up to 50%. So many journals are halving the speed to decision. Some journals are introducing rapid response. One journal I know has accepted articles within 5 days. But speed can also be a burden because this is requiring reviewers and editors to work more quickly, to put more focus on their editorial work. And there is a question about whether we are unrealistically raising the expectations of authors about what will happen in years to come. Will authors continue to expect this rapid turnaround? And as editors, are we able to deliver this long term? Or was this something that we could do in a short focused area last year, but perhaps we will not be able to deliver this in the future? So I think there are a lot of questions over the speed to publication and the expectations of authors and the demands to be made of editors. The next issue I wanted to mention was diversity. And there has been a lot of discussion in the last 12 months about inclusion and diversity. How good are we at ensuring that all research voices are heard, that we are not excluding researchers from the global south, from less developed countries, perhaps because their language skills are not as good as the journal demands, or perhaps because their research projects are considered too small or too much outside the mainstream of what a journal requires. And in making these decisions, are we actually narrowing the scope of what we're doing and what we're publishing? And are we creating an elitist environment that only allows certain voices to be heard? So there are several movements to try and address this. In the publishing environment, there is C4DISC, which is the Coalition for Diversity and Inclusion, which is looking more roundly at the publishing industry as well as the editorial structures to ensure that representation from all parts of the world is made. For example, some publishers, for example here, Cell Press, have released inclusion and diversity statements, have made a commitment to bring on more people from different regions and ensuring equitable representation from different genders, from different regions, from different areas of knowledge. Some publishers, such as Elsevier, are going a step further by actually reporting here the gender diversity of their editors, of looking at the makeup of their editorial boards to ensure that they have an equal distribution. So this journal, Brain Research, is reporting its editorial board is 46% female and 54% male. And this has benchmarked it against its neuroscience portfolio. So in the portfolio, it is only 31% female. So this journal has got a better balance than the entire portfolio. So they're looking at gender diversity and actually reporting it, not just making a commitment. And some other publishers, such as the BMJ, are making resolutions to ensure gender equity across their journals. And this is particularly important because the last year has seen a serious disadvantage on female researchers because they are traditionally the caregivers and the people that look after the family and the home. This has impacted on the amount of research that female researchers have been publishing, and there has been quite wide reporting to this. So there is an obligation on the part of journals, publishers, and journal editorial boards to ensure gender equity going forward. Now, I am past president of the European Association of Science Editors, and we have a very active gender policy committee that is looking at equity in journals, in research, and in publishers. And they are currently inviting our EASE members to submit examples of pledges to improve diversity and inclusion, primarily in gender, but also inclusion from global perspectives as well. So if you are an EASE member, and I hope many of you are, if you do have examples of pledges, please do check out our web pages and submit these to the Gender Policy Committee. But perhaps the biggest editorial trend or discussion that has arisen in the last 12 months is over the issue of preprints. And this feeds back into the concern over speed that I mentioned right at the beginning. So the traditional workflow, which we are all very familiar with, the authors do their research, they create a draft version of their article, they submit it to the journal, it goes through peer review, hopefully after revision it is accepted, and then the version of record is published. But preprints are disrupting this flow because they are offering authors an opportunity to make public their research before it has gone through the journal submission system. And so here, this revised workflow shows that the early draft goes into the preprint server before it then goes into the journal submission system and is hopefully published at the end of the day. So what do journals think about this? What do editors think about the role of preprints and how they interact with their own journals? And this is particularly important because there has been a rapid recent growth of preprint servers. So starting with bioRxiv back in the early 1990s, SSRN a few years later, moving forward, since 2016, there has been a tremendous increase in the number of platforms that allow authors to promote their research faster than a journal can accommodate. So how do journals interact with this? And when I was looking at the discussions, when I've been looking at the whole environment with preprints, I have broken this down into what I'm calling 5 steps to acceptance. So the first step is an uneasy relationship, or even a decision not to interact with preprints. And this comes from what is commonly known as the Ingelfinger rule. And Franz Ingelfinger was the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine in the late 1960s. And in 1969, he declared that the journal would not consider items, articles, or research that has already been published or made public. So it would only consider original and unpublished research. And this, in the preprint era, of course, feeds back to a journal's concern that they will lose citations to preprints. So people will cite a preprint and not cite the published article. And there are still many journals that run this way, that will not accept articles that have already been submitted to a preprint server. And in fact, some recent research has shown that over 50% of both US and German researchers believe that journals in general will not accept articles that have been put onto a preprint server. However, this is only step 1, because step 2, which is acceptance of preprint servers, is now, I would argue, the predominant model within the journals published by the major commercial publishers. And this is evidenced by statements on their websites. For example, here, Wiley and Springer Nature have both issued statements whereby they're saying, as a publisher, we believe that all of our journals should allow for the submission of manuscripts that have already been made public on preprint servers. So they are not demanding that their journals accept articles that have been made available on preprint servers, but they are strongly encouraging it and saying that as a publisher, they advocate for this route. The next step is where the journal actually encourages its authors to submit their article onto preprint servers before they come to the journal. And PLOS is an example of a series of journals that do this. And their argument for encouraging deposit on a preprint server is that it allows the authors to receive some comments before they submit to a journal. So hopefully it might improve the article before it reaches the journal. And also by making the research publicly available, it will start people talking about the research and considering the research, and therefore will help to promote the validated research post peer review. The next step, making it a stronger requirement than simple encouragement, is actually requiring your authors to post preprints before submitting them to the journal. And the journal eLife back in January made this announcement that from June this year, it will only accept submissions that have already been posted as preprints, and it is specifically targeting the preprint servers bioRxiv and medRxiv. So it is actually requiring that preprint engagement. But there is a final step, which is merger. Preprints and journals actually merging to create a new journal publishing model. And these are two examples of journals that operate this model. So under this model, the journals will accept for consideration articles that have been posted on a preprint server. The journal then peer reviews and validates the articles by formally accepting them. But the accepted version of the article is not published on the journal site, but is published on the preprint server. So these journals are effectively providing peer review of articles that are on a preprint server, but are filtering articles that the journals consider to be the best quality on the preprint server. And 2020 was a watershed year for preprints. There was a tremendous increase in the number of life sciences articles that were submitted to the preprint servers, bioRxiv and medRxiv. And whilst medical journals particularly have been extremely nervous about medical information being made publicly available on a preprint server before it has been validated by peer review, these medical journals have now changed their opinion. And this fascinating editorial from JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, considered the benefits and the challenges, or the criticism of articles being made available before peer review. And in this editorial, they, on balance, came out in favor of allowing authors to circulate their research on a preprint server, so long as it is clearly labeled as unvalidated, because they think the benefits of faster, more rapid circulation of medical information is for the public good. So just to finalize this short sort of summary of some of the things that are going on in the editorial environment, I want to reflect back on how the European Association of Science Editors is monitoring and facilitating these discussions of editorial developments and editorial changes throughout the world. So as an association, we believe our mission is to improve the global standards of science editing. So to take a role in promoting the quality of science editing, of recognizing it and making it more professional and improving global standards. But within that, and bearing in mind we have members from all around the world, we have a regional chapter in Russia. So Madam Olga, I'm delighted, she heads our regional chapter in Russia, which is very active, as this conference is evidenced. We have regional chapters, we have a lot of engagement from our members, and we need to both inform them about what is happening within the editorial environment, but also listen to them to see what are the issues that are being raised within our different regional chapters and within our membership from around the world. So we can help to track and to communicate these new developments in editorial standards and new ways of working and new ideas through our journal, European Science Editing, there on the right, and informally within our members by our EASE Digest, which is our membership magazine. We also use the information that we gain from our members and from other sources to advocate for higher standards. So the SAGA guidelines for sex and gender equity in research, our guidelines for authors and translators, and we make public statements of advocacy, so endorsing quality standards, environmental sustainability, and other issues where we believe we need to promote higher standards and both reflect and advocate what is going on in the editorial environment. And of course, networking, enabling editors to talk to other editors, to learn from them and to contribute to what is going on is very important. So we have very active social media and working groups to look at different issues. And finally, I would like to promote, and I hope Madam Olga doesn't mind, that we have a conference in June when we are particularly looking at what is happening about sustainability of scholarly publishing, how editors should be influencing research through the types of articles that they're publishing, and should be advocating for high quality research and high quality scholarly publishing through their journals. So I do hope to see some of you at that conference in June. But really, just to finalize this, there is so much going on in the field of editing. Editors have such a strong responsibility to ensure high quality standards, but also to allow a diversity of voices and opinions to be published, to contribute to the scientific dialogue that is happening around the world, to be inclusive, but also to be inclusive with a high quality standard, so that the journals can be indexed, will be recognized, will be cited, and will contribute towards the improvement of scientific knowledge throughout the world. I think this is a tremendous responsibility, and one where editors need to rise to this challenge and to accept all these different influences that are happening around them. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this conference. I'll now hand back to Madam Olga. Thank you.